Greetings fellow Dogorans and welcome to another Mafia 3 news update. And this is a article, well it's a blog post by Edward Chickens on culturedvultures.com. And this is because I wanted to show other people's point of views on Mafia 3. As I know that everyone subscribed to this channel and everyone watching this video right now is probably excited for Mafia 3 and hopes that it's going to be a good game and thinks it's going to be a good game. Why else would you follow it? And this is an article that is kind of against Mafia 3, and it is titled Why Mafia 3 Should Have Stayed in the Archives. And, you know, before we kind of delve into it, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so let's go straight in. He starts off with, readers will know my thoughts on the original and by far best of the now 3-game series, Mafia: The City of Lost Heaven, which is the first one. Which was like being in a film, one in which you were sucked into the dark, forbidding world of organised crime. So, this guy, he is a fan of the original game, the first Mafia game. Me, personally, my favourite is Mafia 2, because the open world made it a lot better. But, you know, just giving a bit of background on him. And then he says, yeah, after a few years in the wilderness, we were given Mafia 2, a tale of 1940s, 50s mob activity in Empire Bay, a fictional bigger brother to Lost Heaven. Whilst there was an improvement in physics and gaming engine, we seem to be let down by the fact you literally had to drive to work. Missions started by you driving through the morning traffic to meet, then driving home once whatever task you were given to do was completed. The improvement in location, map size, activities, and indeed storyline to a lesser extent all helped drive the overachieving themes of loyalty, family, greed, violence, and betrayal. So, by the sounds of this, he's a fan of the Mafia series so far. But you know, there's aspects of Mafia 2 he didn't enjoy, as he felt like it didn't succeed in an open world scale, as you had to drive to work. Well, in my opinion, I can see where you're coming from. As you know, there wasn't really many activities to do, but you could rob shops, you could drive around the world, you can go see different things, you can fight with people in the street. You've got the freedom to do anything. We're not locked down into this, not exactly locked down into this one motion like you was in the first Mafia game. And the fact that you was able to take whatever route you wanted and explore the world gave it an impressive stance, and I really enjoyed that of Mafia 2. He further adds, robbing shops and taking cars on a long ride to the port to sell them off really didn't have the same appeal as going to see Luca Bertone to go and steal a certain type of car. I'll be honest, taking cars to the port, I found that a lot. I know it was a lot more streamlined than going to see Luca Bertone and steal a certain type of car, but you could do the same of that in Mafia 2. You can go see Mike Brewski and then see what he wanted to, what kind of car he wanted to do. There's different things you could do, and he doesn't really explain that. He doesn't really exactly paint the picture well, which, to be honest, I disagree with in big time. And then he says, even in the original Mafia game, it took you straight home after many missions, or at least gave you the opportunity to go somewhere else to do something else. Well, I understand the point where you're saying that it took you straight home, and yeah, I suppose that would be good if you're just playing the game for the story. But it says here, at least gave you the opportunity to go somewhere else and do something else. In Mafia 2, you could go anywhere in the city once you've done a mission. You know, once you've done the part and then it tells you to go home, you can go anywhere in the city and do whatever you wanted inside the city that was available to you. Much more than what you could do in the first Mafia game. So his point there is really invalid. You know, and I think he must have got the games mixed up, if anything, because Mafia 2, you always had that opportunity to go anywhere else, and in the first Mafia game, you didn't. So, now let's get to the part about Mafia 3, and let's hear his opinions on it. He says, I'm just not inspired to get involved in the world of Lincoln Clay, an African-American Vietnam War veteran who comes home to join the black mob, and subsequently starts his own trial of vengeance against the Italian mob. Whilst the story itself sounds interesting, first off, he says he's not inspired by the whole setup of the Black Mob and the African-American Vietnam War veteran, and then he goes to say it's interesting. I don't really understand where he's coming from on that. Whilst the story, it sounds interesting, one thing that struck me about the gameplay aspect was that it was another cover-based shooter, one that you could perform executing moves. So it's actually improving from the mechanics that we got in Mafia 2 and Mafia 1. It's going further steps forward. You know, you've got to stay true to what the series is, a cover-based shooter. That's what it is. And, you know, it's got that, but it's adding more to it by adding executing moves. I don't see what his problem is here. It seems as if we were dragged down into a world of quick-time events and shuffling around bits of conveniently placed concrete to strike your enemies. The quick-time events thing is not exactly true, as, you know, you instigate these quick-time events by running at someone. And really, the fighting in Mafia 2 was kind of a quick-time event by, you know, going to punch someone and then, you know, you got to hold A at the right time and, you know, counter punches. There's definitely, you know, quick time event aspects to that. And this isn't really a quick time event. You know, you're sprinting at someone and then pressing B to strike them down, but that wouldn't be available to you if you wasn't just sprinting at them. So I don't really understand why he's kind of upset by this. And this was always the case in the first Mafia game, and I don't understand why he's a bit upset by that. And I think that the gameplay itself, there's nothing really that is poor than what we've seen. The story, he says the story's interesting, so I don't understand how he's not inspired if he thinks it's interesting. You know, it's all, I understand a matter of opinion and everything, not really liking the character, but he says he's not inspired by the whole premise of the game, and then he says the premise is interesting. It kind of contradicts himself. And then he finishes off the with the blog post with, I'm not totally convinced that this game will do the two Mafia games any justice. This game may be the next best thing, and indeed with the introduction of an African-American lead character, at least it is a change from the norm. Okay, I can see how this article is very, very, very hypocritical of what he says before. He's like, oh, with the introduction of an African-American lead character, it's a change from the norm, whereas before he says, I'm not inspired. And he does keep the premise of not seeing that it's going to do the previous two games any justice, and cool, you know. If you think that, leave your comments below. But he's talking about, you know, having change in there is not a good thing earlier on in the article, and then he slags off the fact that it's not having change later on when he's saying that, you know, it's another cover-based shooter and that he should stick with the Italian mob premise, but then going, oh, but the introduction of an African-American lead is a change from the norm. I found this article kind of, you know, tough to reason with, and please read the article below and leave your comments of what you thought of it. And Edward Chickens, you know, I just give the game a chance, give Mafia 3 a chance. You know, we haven't seen much of it. You said the premise is interesting. Leave, you know, take a look at it and see, and wait and see what you think of it. You know, don't just go write it off from the very beginning. You know. I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, please check out the GNM podcast, which is on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, as me and Nathan, who's my friend, who's the co-host of that, had a good time doing that, and it's going to be every 2 weeks, so next week is going to be the second one. Check out the Steam curator page called the Steam curator page called the Degorans. Also, on Degora TV, content will be starting up again on there soon. Also, leave your comments below. I want to hear everything of what you thought of this article, and like the video. So, subscribe to join the fellow Degorans. Goodbye.